Good morning, Trader's Edge with high-tech trading analysis. This morning I want to talk about some updates I've made to my DrawBar. We've added a bunch of custom drawing tools. We took a couple defaults and made those custom, and I want to release this to the website. Before I do, I need to show you some of the added features and tools. So the first thing that we're going to do is, as with all my here, well, let's do this. Let's clean all this up. Let's get rid of those profiles. Let's get rid of those price times. Let's get rid of VWAP, and we don't even need the grid, right? Okay, so we'll start off with a nice clean chart. All of my tools add an icon to NT's toolbar up here. And if we left click on the pencil icon or hover over it, we'll see HT DrawBar U. Left click it, we're going to get a window. You're going to notice that this window is changed. I've added a bunch of stuff. We've moved some stuff around. I've just had to kind of move it around and make it aesthetically pleasing as I could. Let's do this. Let's turn some of these on so that we can demonstrate. I don't need any of that. All of that's already on. Okay, we'll go with that. So I believe in the last version, I'm just going to start from left to right on the DrawBar. Our original risk reward was a multi, right? We clicked once for an entry. We could click again for another scale in, and then we clicked for a risk. And this was a static reward based on the RR that you set in the properties of the drawing tool. And then the next RR tool was we click for an entry, we click for a stop, we click for a target. Now, this is the same thing. We click for an entry, we click for a stop, we click for a target, but it's more aesthetically like the trading view might show. If we right click on this, I can show price labels on the right hand side if I want or not. Price labels and tick offset. If I'm not showing price labels, I'm not going to show tick offset. This show dot labels, I can show price in that. I can show price, points, ticks, dollars. The show dot labels, even though that is unchecked, while the tool is selected, you'll be able to see the values you have checked. If this show dot label is checked, even when it's not selected, you'll see that. Notice the difference. So just an easy way so that if you don't want to see them, you don't want to see those all the time, you can do that. I'm not sure what we've got in these. If we right click on that, we've got the same thing. Let's get rid of that. Coming over to lines, all of our lines, our custom right-click menus have changed quite a bit. Okay, so we've always had IsHorizontal, although I think it might have been at the bottom and I've moved it towards the top. Or let's just say that we're drawing a trend line. Okay. When it's selected, depending on where I click on the chart, okay, if I click here, what bar am I on? I'm on this bar. If I wanted to be on this bar, let's just say I right click here. The object is selected. If I say end anchor here, it's going to extend anchor to where I clicked. Notice that? That's where I clicked. or I could extend the anchor to the last bar. I can extend it right, I can extend it left. I've got alert on touch. So if it's extended right and price comes up here to touch this line, we're going to get an alert. When we're extending the line, we can show an extended price, and that is the point at which price has to touch for that alert to go off. I believe if we had show price labels on, we would even see what that price label was. So back up here, turn that off, turn all of that off for now. Show dot labels. So that would work better if we redraw this line this way. Tick, dollar, bar, time, time span, price, points, percent. All of these are available to display below your start point. Now, in all actuality, I thought that if that was higher, sure. As long as the start point is above the end point, it'll show up above the line. If the start point is below the end point, it'll show up below the line. Now, if I make this horizontal, got to click somewhere and it made it horizontal. All of my text is not going to be shown. I don't have. Well, I got to come back and unmake that horizontal. I don't have points, range, ticks, dollars. I don't have most of this stuff to be displaying underneath it when it's set to horizontal. But there is a difference between displaying our dot labels and showing our custom labels. We can show any type of custom label for our lines now. This goes for all of our lines. I can type whatever I want in here. In the indicator properties, which I'll show you in a bit, we can actually set up a list of things so that this will populate. Anytime we right click on a line, we can just choose from the list that we want. Now, you might have to make this list more than just lines. Fair value gap usually isn't a line, but if you want to use that for the rectangle, I can only have one list. If I want to center that, I use this box here, and it centers it. So now we have custom labels. We have the we'll show you the drop-down list where you can create your own drop-down list. Extend right here, LastBar. We've always had most of all of this. This is going to go across all lines. Now, another thing I've done to the lines is before, let's just put it this way. We've added extend left and extend right to all lines, regardless of what the lines are. Now you say, why would you do that? So here's an extended line. That's a normal extended line. That's normally what you'd be looking at. You'd be able to click on this and move that around, and they're extended right and left. I don't use that. So I've customized this so that my default, when I draw it, meaning my template down here, I've got a default template, and I draw it like this. I draw it so that it's not extended left and it's not extended right, and it's a horizontal line. So if I want a horizontal line on my chart, I grab it and I move it across. And now I don't have to dick with anything else. Now, it is easy enough, grant you, that if I just take my line tool, hold my shift key down and draw, that will be a horizontal line. Or if I left that up, now I do it with my control key, same thing. I mean, I can draw a horizontal line easy enough just by using my keyboard. But if I didn't want to use my keyboard during that time, I can set these up now, those that I might not use or those that I might use for something else. I mean, I don't use array anymore because I tend to use an arrow line instead. And that way, when I'm drawing it, I get the arrow on the end of it, and I make that my default. We do now have custom fibs. Now, all I've done is taken the default, whatever the default fibs, I've just made my own. These are 50%. Just happens to be what I have set up as my default template. But if we come down and load like a template like this, we can see now that we can shade. I don't like those colors at all. Okay, so let's just do that. We've got 15 price levels down here shaded. 38 to 50. So that's a good shade. This is the one we want shaded. Only that's got to be darker, I think. That's better. Save it right over itself. Okay, so that just means that the next time that I draw that, oh, no, because it's default. Duh. But the next time I load that, that'll look different. In any case, you can notice that when I was in there, you can shade now in between the areas. In each individual area that you assign to a level, you can now shade individually whatever color you want. What I was actually looking at was I've hard-coded this as a fib tool, right? Go from high to low. I've got a retracement down here. And I was just looking to see if I could duplicate that with these. Our Fibonacci time extensions. I have modified this to be a 3-point tool, not a 2-point tool. NinjaTrader's default is you click once, you draw across, you click again, and then it extends out the time cycles. Now, in other platforms, this is a 3-point to where now we can move that and the time is associated to that third point. If you just want to use it as a 2-point tool, click your start, click your end, click one more time, and it's set the same way as the default would be. But now if you do want to use it as a 3-point versus a 2-point, you have that ability. I'm still playing with it. I'm probably in the right-click menus of those fib tools at one point in time. I'd like to be able to add price levels into this so that when we right-click, we can see the price levels. Here would be a price levels. Over here would be all of them that were in your levels, and we'd be able to just simply check a box to show those. But not there yet. Not sure if we'll ever get there, but some thoughts. So the path tool, what I was saying earlier. Double click to end it. Because when we right click on this now, we can show trends that might have came out of that. We can show labels, patterns. Let's just turn all this stuff on and see what we get. So all of this is available individually. So we would pattern this out as A, B, C, D, E, F. Shows you the price that it's at, the time span, number of ticks, number of bars, the percentage of retracements. I don't think we did. The polygon tool is default. So is our channels and our regression channel. Those are all default. The rectangle tool, again, you're going to see the custom text up here, the drop down, the centering, all the extends. If we've got this extended right, we do now have an alert on break and alert on touch. I don't have the auto break in yet, huh? I'm looking at adding an auto break to that. All right, maybe next version. Price labels, if we want to see them. Now, the reason why these are offset so far is I believe I have mine set up as default, like a 65 pick offset to the right, so that if there's something in your right, normally I would have a grid over here on the right showing me my point sizes so that I can see how far everything is away from each other. Show anchor dots. Show anchor dots. That's on the, we're talking about the rectangle still. So dot labels. Let's pick everything we can show there. Again, the same type of thing. We've somewhat standardized on our text between the labels and the lines. You know, if you want to show the price that it is, the percent, the time span, the bars, the points, the ticks, and the dollars. We have centered the dot labels. If you'd rather have them over on the right in the start dot, which where they normally are, we can do that. Now, again, any of the dot labels has nothing to do with our custom text. If we want to type in whatever, we can display that custom text in the middle of our zone on the right hand side, middle of our rectangle on the right hand side. If we want to center that, we can center that. If we want to use text that we pulled out of our pull down, we can do that. Let me show you that here real quick. We go into our indicators. I right clicked on the chart, indicators, coming down here to DrawBar. Okay. So our DrawBar settings have changed just a bit. We've added just a couple things to the bottom again. But our icon size, text on the top offsets, we have to, if we're using our chart executions in our chart trader, we have to tell it what it is when it's open and when it's closed. The snap mode's got to be on and off. The snap mode doesn't work so great with some of the custom tools. And then down here at the bottom, custom text. This is your custom text list. You can type whatever you want, separate it by a comma. If I wanted to add something here, please always start this box with a comma. It's going to put a comma in the front whether you do or not, but always start this with a comma and then just type in my. So all I did was add my in before RR, and if I come back to my box now, if I use my pull down, we should have that ability to make that our custom text. It's as simple as that. Now, that custom text inside the properties there, let's go back to that just real quick. So all of this is going to be used for any of the lines, rectangles, whatever allows you the custom text. This is going to be used for it all, not for any one particular drawing tool. Okay, let's talk about the gaps and the swings and the bar value gaps. So those are a couple new tools. Let's get rid of all of this. No, let's talk about text first of all. So if I add test. Okay, now that X just like normal. Right? Put text on the chart. It floats around with the chart. You do now have an option that you can have that as a fixed position, meaning now that I've put this here, it doesn't matter where my bars are going to be. That text is going to remain exactly where I put it on the chart. Show past. I guess this is a good time to show that too. Show past last bar. All of my tools in the past. This is going to go for all, I believe, everything. If the start and the end bar, if I back up, notice how the line disappears? Now, you wouldn't think that so much for a line, but if we took, I don't know, you were doing something, you were marking out, you previously went back on your chart and you marked out this area for something. You don't want to see, if I'm going back and looking and I'm just analyzing the market bar by bar or whatever, I don't want to see something that's happened in the future. By default, in the past, all of my tools were show past last bar was off, meaning I'm never going to see that until both the start and the end anchor of this object, until there's a bar at that point, and that is by purpose. Now you have the option on all of the tools that you can either see them in the future, you can see them anywhere on the chart you want, if that's the way you want to look at them. Okay, we just start to test. I'm trying to move through this pretty quick. Bar gaps. This is going to be like a time-based region. Now watch as I draw. This is my start point here. Watch as I draw to the right. There's one. What this is doing is it's taking whatever bars that I have between the start and here and showing me any gaps from the closing price of the previous bar, meaning that if I open this up a little, the closing price, this gapped up, this went away, and the close of this bar left a gap right here. And that gap's going to stay until the bar that I could maybe draw it even on the bar, on that bar too. But that bar broke it. And I'm no longer drawing that because it's not an open gap. So there is no open gaps between here and here currently to show. Let's get rid of that. Let's drop down to a 5-minute chart. And let's try again. Oh, that's fair value gap. Okay, so there's an open gap right there, and we're going to see it until it isn't an open gap anymore, and that bar closes it. All right, well, that didn't do exactly what I was hoping. I was hoping we would find, wow. There they are. A couple of them down here, but that's somewhat unusual not to have any around. But as we look at the chart, between this point and this point, the only open gaps we have still are these two down here. As I go back, you'll see the ones that were, and that's how these drawing tools work. This is the bar value gap. The next one is a fair value gap. So now we're looking at fair value gaps that are open on this particular chart. Now, I should, okay, we should go back and give this a little fair value gaps. Open right now. Now, this, depending on who you are, you might say, oh, well, this has already been breached. This should be gone. You can do that. You can break it on the high-low, and it'll break, and you can get rid of those if you wish. That's just an option in the indicator to draw them that way. This means it has to actually close below, any close below that gap, that fair value gap, whatever you want to call it, any close below that will break that. But till it closes above this, that will remain open. Okay, and then the last one is swings. We click here, we draw, and we're seeing all of the swings that are currently open between here and here. Okay, now, when it comes to the swings, there is a swing left and a swing right. Okay, we have to qualify what a swing is. How many, it has to be the highest high or the lowest low. Okay, in how many bars? How many bars you want to look left? That would qualify it for the swing. And then how many bars do you want to continue to look towards the right to confirm that it actually is? Now, that might be one, that might be two, that might be, it might, I was talking right, it might be 5, it might be whatever it is that you want it to be, but you have to determine what qualifies for a swing. I give you 2 properties that you can configure to best suit your needs. Okay, now, the one thing about all of these tools is all of these tools can actually display all of these tools. So, what exactly does that mean? If I were to just draw the bar gaps, okay, and we'll go from here and we'll just go all the way to the end, and there is none, right? Not even in that period open currently. But if I right click on that, I can actually show the fair value gaps, just like if I were to draw the fair value gaps. This is the same thing. Or I could show the swings. So now I can show the fair value gaps, the bar closing gaps, and the swings all from the one tool. Any of the 3 are all the same. I mean, they are and they aren't, but they are. I hope that makes sense. So let's get rid of all of this. Now, a unique thing that was added for these three bars. So yes, we could draw them. We could consistently do that, but my idea behind wanting this on here was to be able to automatically show those values for the view of the chart that I currently have. So now if I right click, if I left click, I get my little window that we put our icons across the top. But now if I right click, I'm going to get a right click context menu. And if I want to show the open fair value gaps on the chart, just on the viewable area that I am on, or the closing gaps, or the swings, I can now do that just by turning them on up here in the NT's icon. Now, all of these have that same ability that we break them, breach them, make them no longer there on the high or the low of the bar. Or you can use the close. They all have that individual option underneath. This, if this is not on, whether this is or isn't, makes no difference whatsoever. But you'll notice that by not using the high-low here, this swing that previously qualified, that got breached or broken, but didn't get closed below. Okay, so let's turn all of those off, and there's one more thing here. Okay, in a normal sense, all of the tools that we have on here, let's just do this. If I right-click this icon, any line, specifically this type of drawing object, will be removed from the chart, but all of the rest, no matter what I have on here, will not be affected. So we'll just right-click on that. Notice all those lines are gone. So let's just put them back on the chart one more time. The new bar closing gap, fair value gap, swing do not work this way. Okay, this is not going to remove these tools from your chart. What I've done here is if I right click on the fair value gap icon, it turns it on for the chart, just like if I were to right click here and turn this on. Now, this is not necessarily synced to this button. I just wanted to make this nice and easy for me to come in, turn on and off just with the right click of a button, and I hardly ever draw it this way. I'm either turning it on here or for the most part just hiding and showing them real quickly there. Notice how when I right clicked on that, it actually brought down another menu. I'll try to get that to stop doing that. Okay, just a couple other things. Let's draw a couple things, just to draw a couple things. Our red eye will hide everything. Our green eye will bring it back always. So we can hide and show everything. We can, if we right click that, we will delete all the lines on the chart. But if we middle click that, that will hide all of just that object on the chart. And that works for all of these. Now, if you've used the right click over here for the fair value gaps and you're looking at the fair value gaps, I don't believe the middle click will hide that, because that actually has nothing to do with the draw object itself. And let me talk about that for just a minute. We need to talk about these three new tools just a little more. One more thing, if we right-click our Remove Draw Objects icon, we will get a list of all the objects that we will have on the chart, and we can remove them by group. If we click HT line, it's going to remove all the lines, not just one of the lines. If you have multiple items of the same draw object and you only want to remove one, couple ways to do that, but it is always going to have to be selected in order to remove just that one object. So if I want to get rid of that line, the only way I can do it is select it, hit my delete key on my keyboard, or right click on it now and come down here and click remove, or we can right click on the X while it's selected and it will only delete just that one object. Okay, so getting back to our new drawing tools up here. If we right click, we come back in here to indicators. In the DrawBar settings, now down here below you're going to see a gap and a swing setting. So when we're middle clicking this, or when we're right clicking our icon up here and using those menus, we are going to be using these settings to be drawing this right now. Notice that my fair value gap right now is set to white with an opacity of 15. I'm not distinguishing between the upper and the lower like the settings are if I were to actually use the draw object itself. So here is where if we're using the middle click button, the right click button to show all the swings, the settings is going to be in the DrawBar itself. If we're drawing this, the settings will be taken from the draw object. We're not drawing, we're actually not really drawing a manual object when we use either the right click here or the right click on our icons. Okay, let's clarify alerts just a little bit. So I draw a line, I extend that line right, and now I want an alert if price drops below this line. So I would just select the line, right click, and say alert on touch. Now what you have to be aware of is if we have multiple tabs going across our window and we are in another tab, not this tab, this alert is not going to go off. If you're using alerts on a draw object, it must be in the active tab being shown in the window. Doesn't matter how many windows you have, but the tab has to be active. NinjaTrader does not draw things from a draw object standpoint on a chart that isn't rendering, and if the tab is not active, it's not rendering. So the code isn't even being run for the alert to happen. Just something we have to live with in NinjaTrader. So next, the volume profile. Let's just get rid of all of this. Let's redraw that. Let's start at the low and we'll go to the high. What have we done for it? Each one of these now, we can turn the labels on, off. We can show each one of these all individually now. I'm not sure the low volume was there before. I think we've always had a summary, extend levels short, extend levels far, profile on right. Okay, you probably won't ever use those. Ought to make all that go away. Load templates. It feels like a lot of it's the same, and it feels like I've individually put a lot of that stuff in there, so you can turn that on and off now as well. VWAP, I think, is the same thing. We can show any one of them individually, and we can extend those lines in the future as well. I can't remember if my freehand is not the best of all freehands, right? You can see the jaggedness using a mouse. But I'm also on a 4K monitor at 200%, so that kind of does affect NT overall. Okay, did I really get to the end of that? I think we're going to call it right there. That should at least get you through and be able to install it. Now, one thing I do want to mention, though, is if you have templates, if we drew that template, we come down here and we have saved templates, and you have all of these templates. I would suggest that you right-click on this. This is going to be a pain just this first time. This is why I don't release these all that often anymore. But you're going to want to come down here and load every one of these templates. I'll come down here and load the test template. Okay. All I'm going to want to do now is come back down here and say save, test, yes. All I did was load it and resave it over itself. But what that did was any of these properties, this center text up here, any of these that were not in your previous version weren't in that template that you saved before. So that template should still load, but we want to make sure that any templates that we're using in the future contain all of the values and the properties for that drawing tool. And that's why we would need to do that with every one of our tools and every one of our, well, in this case, I say every one. Yeah, all of those. Your regions, no, all of your lines, your path tool for sure. Your previous fib templates won't even work anymore. These are brand new tools. I could show you, if you want to reach out to support, I could show you how to get the normal default, Fibonacci stuff. If you have some of that saved, I can show you how to get that over pretty quick. You won't have to worry about those. You will have to do rectangles. I don't think you'd have to do a circle. Text for sure. All of these are brand new. You wouldn't even have them. I'm gonna say yes to these. I mean, just to be safe, guys, I would do them all. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out, and please be safe in this crazy world.